Gopijanavalabha Girivardhari Gopijanavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Rajaranandana Yashodanandana Rajaranandana Nativa Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vijanavalabha Girivardhari Vijanavalabha Girivardhari Shodanandana Rajajanarandana Yashodanandana Rajajanarandana Nativa Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Madhava Kunjavihari Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radha. Jaya Radha Samasundara Radha Samasundara. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Nitya Go Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba. Nitya Go Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Acharya Sudhar Sudhar Shishmari Divine Guest, Abhachan Bhakti Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Iskan Pramacharya Divine Guest Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Yogi Shri Paparam Sabri Acharya Sudhar Sudhar Shishmari Divine Guest, Shri Bhakti Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anand Puri Vaishnava Ki Jai, Namacharya Shri Vilas Thakur Ki Jai, Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Gaura Bhakta Ki Jai, Shri Shiva Hare Krishna Gopal Shyam Radha Kuli Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Vandarajman Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Jai Govinda. How glorious the symbol devotees, how glorious the symbol devotees, how glorious the symbol devotees, how glorious Shri Guru and Shri Guranga, how glorious Shri Prabhupada Ki.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna and welcome to all the devotees online. Thank you very much for your association and attendance. Today we are starting a new chapter, Canto 1, Chapter 8, verses 1 to 17. The prayers by Queen Kunti and Parikshit saved. This chapter was loved by Srila Prabhupada, especially the prayers of Queen Kunti, which we will cover next week. Om Jnanatmivandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Vayusha Sarva Vedeka Satvala Sarva Siddhantaratmadya Sarva Lokai Triprada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalai Dando Didaritya Shri Krishna Parivartita O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, O you are enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophic conclusions, O you who grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O light breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has risen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pataya Premava Shasharayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. By reading you one attains transcendental bliss. For your syllables rain pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madhekabandhu Matsange Madguru Man Mahadana Man Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya Madananda Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Asadu sadhu tadaya inatini chotataraka hanamuncha kada chinmam premna ritkatayospura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O giver of saintly and strong saint, you are uplifted the very fallen. Please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest in my heart and my throat, accompany of pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadyasya Yatonvayaditarata Charte Swabhigna Swarat Tene Brahma Hidaya Adikavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargom Risha Damna swena sada nirasta kurtam satyam param dhimayi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primal cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destructions of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahma, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion as one is bewildered by the illusory representation of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifest by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in transcendental abode, which is forever free from illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Prayanopayasha sabya kalavasmin yuge jana manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya upadrita. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, many but short lives, they are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Narayan namaskritya narachaivam narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of God and Narayan, unto Narayan, which is the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Savaipum soparo dharmo yato bhakti radokshajay ahritikya pratyata yatma suprasiddhati. The supreme occupation dharma for all humanity, that by which man can attain to loving devotional service under the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayatya Suvaivagyam Dhyanam Chayat Ahritikam. By rendering devotional service under the personality of God as Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Vadanti tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwaniti sabhyate. Learn the transcendentals who know the absolute truth, called this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Shri Shri Shrosara Danasya Vasudeva Kata Ruchi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevana. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains eternity for hearing the message of Vasudeva. Shranvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hirtan Pastoya Vadrani Vidunati Suritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of a true devotee, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues when properly heard and chanted. Astapayasha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatutama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Nashtiki, by regular tenets in the classes in the Bhagavatam. And by rendering our service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service under the personality of God, who is praised with transcendental song, is established as irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings of the Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna. So let us hear some feedback from Canto 1, Chapter 7, verses 49 to 58, the last part of the 7th chapter. Please share whatever feedback. If you like to unmute, you are most welcome to unmute as well. Hemavati Radhika says, how the witch left when the devotee chanted Srila Prabhupada's Pranam mantra. How powerful our Srila Prabhupada is. This pastime shows us, if we surrender to Srila Prabhupada, how we don't have to worry about absolutely anything. This is absolutely wonderful and beautiful and inspiring to hear. Yes. Srila Prabhupada's shelter, Srila Prabhupada's words, Srila Prabhupada's instructions, Srila Prabhupada's sacrifice in setting up the society, his Bhaktivedanta purports, everything about Srila Prabhupada is wonderful, amazing. One devotee was saying, you can count the number of stars in the sky, but you will not be able to count Srila Prabhupada's glories. This is Srila Prabhupada. So we should always be grateful, and always remember this. We have such an amazing personality. If you consider from a warrior perspective, Srila Prabhupada is this chief commander. So even in the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhupada is the chief commander. And if we take shelter of the chief commander, then you will always be protected. So we are very, very blessed, and we should try to bless others. Mother Archana Siddhi says, I was reflecting on the witch of how fortunate she is to have darshan of Srila Prabhupada. Yes. So that is also true. She was more fortunate than me. She had the darshan of Srila Prabhupada. And that darshan she got by the mercy of the devotee of Srila Prabhupada. So we have come in contact with so many devotees. So Mother Archana Siddhi brought an interesting perspective. The witch came in contact with one devotee, and due to that devotee, she had the good fortune of seeing Srila Prabhupada. We have come in contact with so many devotees, and therefore we should no doubt be blessed multifold times. As devotees, we should wish and desire the welfare of everyone we come in contact with. So therefore, if all the devotees online bless me, that I can also one day see the Prabhupada, then that will be the greatest blessing. And like this, we can pray. Naturally, Srila Prabhupada is there in his words, in his instructions, in his deity form, in his picture form. But our desire is to personally one day meet Srila Prabhupada face to face and be eternally engaged in his service. The message of Krishna consciousness is to accept Krishna as our friend, and then we will be happy. To depend on Krishna is a glorious quality. And this aspect of dependence is going to be brought out in this section as well. Shamananda Prabhu says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, we are really learning a lot from the weekly sessions in association of devotees. Thanks for the hard work and time to make it possible. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. Thank you. Oops. Thank you. Yes. These classes also benefit me. Ultimately, I'm doing it so that I get benefited by your attendance. I'm, you could say, forced to associate with Srimad Bhagavatam because laziness can overcome me, and therefore I become lazy and don't study, don't read. So in this way, by committing this way, I'm forced to read, I'm forced to associate, I'm forced to hear. In this way, I'm forced to become purified. And I pray that like this, one day, that spontaneous attraction to associate with Krishna in the form of the Bhagavatam, to just drink the nectar constantly, satatam kirtayantoma, constantly, kirtanya sadahari, constantly glorifying, hearing, that may come upon all of us. Hemavati Radhika also says, also what really touched my heart, hearing that Krishna is our friend and how we dial him up by chanting. Krishna is our beloved and true friend. Thanks to Srila Prabhupada sharing this with us. Yes, we have the phone number simply by the Hare Krishna mantra. It's, as Prabhupada said, very simple but sublime, very deep. Just chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Rama, Hare Hare. But there is so much depth there. So much is we are able to access so much through a simple mantra. And the beauty is, the more we access, the more there is. There's an ocean, unlimited ocean of nectar, of glories, of relationship, of rasa, of mellow that is awaiting us. This should be our goal, our target, our desire, to open this chest of Krishna consciousness, of relationship, of mellows. Nalini Kanta says, Arjuna's sharp intelligence. He used his intelligence. He didn't say, well, Krishna, you there, you can sort it out. No, he uses intelligence. So sometimes we also have to engage our intelligence. It's coming from Krishna, we should use it. Mother Les says, the message from last week's class reiterated the perfect message of Bhagavad Gita, surrendering to Shri Krishna by one's own choice after deliberating on these glorious transcendental messages without losing who we are as individual jivas. Shri Krishna preserves what we have and carry what we lack. Yes. And these points will be reiterated again and again, different perspective, different pastimes, for the simple reason, even though it's so simple, we don't get it. Why? Because of false ego, because of covering, because of ignorance, because of bad association, because of stubbornness. And because of these reasons and so many others, we just are so reluctant, so stubborn. We're so caught up with this material world. We don't want to give up this material world to access that which is what we really want. It's really ironic. We're trying so hard to get peace, protection, shelter, bliss, happiness, perfection, all these things in the wrong place, and we know the right place, yet we are stuck in this rut of material existence. Prabhupada says the stool house of the material world. We become so accustomed to the smell that we don't want to leave. And therefore the pure devotees come, and through their words, they try, they successfully penetrate the depths of our hearts to shatter our material aspirations and shatter the shackles that are binding us to this material world, so that we can actually become truly free. So thank you very much for the devotees that have shared the feedback. Let us proceed. So just concluding from last week's theme, that in some situations, there may be both scenarios that may be correct. Now, there's the spiritual aspect versus the managerial aspect. On a spiritual perspective, we simply follow Srila Prabhupada, Krishna, the pure devotees of the Lord, Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. Whatever they say, we follow. There's no two ways. It's not like, well, I think. No. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj said, as soon as you say, I think, stop right there. If somebody says, I think, you tell him, stop right there, go into the closet, complete a sentence and come out. Because we are really not interested in your thinking. So I don't want your thinking. We only want what Krishna says, what Guru says, what Srila Prabhupada says. So that generally there's no two ways about it. It's not like there's a right and wrong. There's only a right. But in a managerial situation, when you are discussing in relation to preaching, in relation to expanding Krishna consciousness in different situations, like you gave the example of the orange. So there's a spiritual aspect of the orange, which means the devotees want to serve Krishna to use the orange. That's given. There's no doubt about that. But in terms of dealing with each other, in terms of serving and managing this ourselves in the mission of Krishna consciousness, there may be both devotees and both perspectives that are correct. And therefore, it requires intelligence to see how to best fulfill both desires, how to have the win-win situation. And in that way, we can please the devotees, engage them, purify ourselves, and become perfect. Bhavana Prabhu says, original nature of Lord Krishna is clearly distinguished from his plenary portions, right from all-pervasive Vishnu through to all Godheads, no doubt. And that is what Srimad Bhagavatam is really presenting. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavatam is all about Krishna, not about the expansions, incarnations, Vishnu, Purusha avatars. No, even though they are all described, but they are described in relation to the emperor verse. Ete chamsa kalapumsa Krishna stu Bhagavan swayam. So remember that emperor verse. We should always remember the emperor verse. All the verses are linked, connected to the emperor verse. Krishna stu Bhagavan swayam. So every single pastime, every single glorification in the Bhagavatam is amplifying, presenting to us Krishna stu Bhagavan swayam, Supreme Personality of God, the original person, the God. Robert says, the personality of Godhead, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, the Bhagavatam has its special place. It is, however, explained further. It is, however, explained further that as it may, that it descends for his friend's sake and devotees, and yet he still remains free from contamination of the three modes of nature. Yes, Krishna is never touched by the modes of material nature. It almost felt like we were in the fire of the glare of the Brahmastra and counteracting weapons of Arjuna. Very fascinating is the science of gross and subtle activation of weapons. It is so beautiful and energizing to learn that the so-called and glorified nuclear weapon are not as destructive as they made to be. They can only touch a globe. They can only touch a globe of the entire universe. Yet these subtle weapons operating by chanting Vedic hymns can reach the three worlds and shake the whole firmament of planets. We also learned that living entities are in all planets. Yes, Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, Sarvagata, the living entities are all over. It's not like you look in the sky and you see so many planets and it's empty. We are the only people that exist on Earth planet. Yes, like really. The living entities everywhere, in fire, in water, in the sun, planet everywhere, Sarvagata. There is no space in Krishna's vast expansion of creation where a living entity does not exist. You can't see, it doesn't mean the living entities don't exist. So yes, and today we're also going to be covering about the Brahmastra in relation to the nuclear weapon. So let us begin. Chapter 8, Prayers by Queen Kunti and March Parikshit Saved. So the theme of these 17 verses that we are going to cover today is dependence on the Lord. And this is the theme. And as we go through these verses, I want you to contemplate, I want you to meditate on this theme and try to take all the important aspects, and then we'll summarize that also at the end. So there's 17 verses, and we're going to go through each of the 6 sections. So the first 2 verses, which is in the section of verses 1 to 4, Krishna pacifies the Pandavas. The Pandavas offer water and bathe in the Ganges. Text 1. Shri Sutta Vacha atate samparatanam swanam udakam ichatam dutam sa Krishna gangayam puraskritya yayustriya. Sutta Goswami said, thereafter, the Pandavas, desiring to deliver water to the dead relatives who had desired it, went to the Ganges with Draupadi. Ladies walked in front. Prabhupada in the purport says, to date, it is the custom in Hindu society to go to the Ganges or any other sacred river to take bath when death occurs in the family. Each of the family members pours out a pot full of Ganges water for the departed soul and walks in a procession with ladies in the front. The Pandavas also followed the rules. More than 5,000 years ago, Lord Krishna, being a cousin of the Pandavas, was also amongst the family members. We can consider millions of soldiers or family members died in the Battle of Kurukshetra. It was really a family war. And so many family members are now lamenting. So we are now hearing Sutta Goswami sharing this incident of those that have survived. They are no doubt lamenting the loss of their loved ones. The Pandavas also lamented the loss of their loved ones. And Krishna is also included as one of the relatives. So the first point we have to appreciate is, in this material world, there are bonds. And when someone leaves, naturally there is that element of grief. We're going to see how the Lord did not stop the family members from grieving. We should allow the family to grieve. At the same time, we're going to see how Krishna addresses the situation. So the first point we have to appreciate and understand is, even in a devotee family or any family, when there's when somebody leaves this world, then at that time of grieving, we should allow the family members to grieve. Not like somebody dies and you go in, there and you start preaching to them, you're not your body, spirit, soul, everyone's eternal, nobody dies. Why are you crying? Why are you lamenting? It's foolish to cry, to lament. No, we have to allow them to grieve. So it's a very important aspect of overcoming that separation. So it's healing, and it's important. So here we see the Pandavas, they went to the Ganges. In Garuda Puran, it is described when the soul leaves, and remember, it is relative to the evolution of the consciousness of the soul. It is described generally in majority of the cases that when the soul leaves, the soul is taken to Yamaloka. And that pathway, the journey to hellish planets, the journey to Yamaraja's abode, is long and an arduous road. And the challenge is, it's a lengthy road with no food and water. You get a body which is more subtle than the gross body, but more gross than the mind. And in this body that you get, they take, the Yamadutas take the soul. So it is described that at this time, any of the family members that are there, whatever shraddha, whatever pinda they do, whatever offerings they do, like here, offering of Ganges water, it goes to the departed soul. They get that food and water through Krishna's different systems that Krishna's made arrangements. So here's one system that Krishna's made by offering water to the Ganges, then the departed soul gets the offering. Consider this body. This body has nerve veins, and the blood is transported through the veins. In Sanskrit, they call it nadis. Right? So even prana moves through the different nadis. Ganga is a nadi, a river. So just as energy is moved through the nadis of the body, the Ganges is said to be the veins or the nadis of the universal form. And by offering water to the Ganga, to Mother Ganga, that water is taken like through the nadis or through the nadi, and then given to the departed soul. So this is the act of, or the ceremonies that are there in terms of helping the departed soul. Krishna also was there, even though he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he's related in terms of Pandavas, and therefore he is also performing this final custom. Text 2. Enini yodakam sarve vilapya cha brisham punam apluta hari padamja raja puta shari jale. Having lamented over them and sufficiently offered Ganges water, they bathed in the Ganges, whose water is sacred, whose water is sanctified, due to being mixed with the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. This pastime of how Mother Ganga came to the world will be described in a few places in the Srimad Bhagavatam. We will hear this pastime from different angles. Vamanadev's appearance, Bhagirath's praying for the descent of Ganga, etc. So we'll, when we come to the pastimes describing Mother Ganga, we will speak. But she is sanctified by the touch of the lotus feet of Krishna. Text 3 and 4. Everyone is aggrieved, but Krishna and the sages specify. So we allow everyone to grieve, and now we don't allow them to continue to grieve. So we're going to hear how Krishna is now going to pacify the Pandavas and those who are grieving. We can also learn from this when we are invited to speak during a funeral program, somebody left. We can now also use some of these points, but always after a few days, let them grieve, and then, like Krishna is allowing them to grieve, and then later he pacifies them. So similarly, we let the family members grieve, and then we can have a Krishna Katha where we share these principles or these truths to the family members. Usually when devotees call me, they'll ask me, do you like to, can you do weddings? And I'll say, no, I don't do weddings, I do funerals. Because, in weddings, nobody wants to listen. But at least during funeral time, the people they have questions, they are grieving, they're more open, more receptive to the message. So they're more receptive to the message of Krishna consciousness. Text 3. Tatrasinam kuru patim ritarastram sahanujam gandarim putra sokartam ritam krishnam chamadava. There said the king of the Kurus, Yudhishthira, along with his younger brothers, and Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, Kunti, and Draupadi, all overwhelmed with grief. But Krishna was also there. Prabhupada writes in the purport, the battle of Kurukshetra was fought between family members, and thus all affected persons were also family members, like Yudhishthira and brothers, Kunti, Draupadi, Subhadra, Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, and her daughters-in-law, etc. All the principal dead bodies were in some way or other related with each other, and therefore the family was combined. Lord Krishna was also one of them, as a cousin of the Pandavas and nephew of Kunti, as well as the brother of Subhadra, etc. The Lord therefore was equally sympathetic towards all of them, and therefore he began to pacify them fittingly. Text 4. Santavya Asha Munibir Hata Bandum Sucharpitam Bhuteshu Kalyasya Gatim Darshayam Na Pratikriyam. Citing the stringent laws of the Almighty and their reactions upon living beings, Lord Shri Krishna and the Munis began to pacify those who were shocked and affected. So here the word, there is darshayam na pratikriyam. Na pratikriyam. Na means no, and pratikriyam, remedial measures. There is no remedial measure in this material world in relation to the stringent laws. Prabhupada in the purport expands beautifully. The stringent laws of nature under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be altered by any living entity. So stringent laws means there is no remedial measure. You can't do and you can't find a solution. There is no solution. Even though people may present a solution, they are lying because there is no solution. And the stringent laws in the material world, birth, death, disease, old age, adidevic, adipoti, adiatmic suffering, all the challenges that the living entity is plagued by due to the stringent laws are not presented to us without any reason. It is under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is not impersonal. Prabhupada will often say if there's a machine, then there is a mechanic behind the machine. Just like any machine in the material world exists because there is someone that created that machine. So who created the machine of this creation, of this material world, of this material body, and all the stringent laws that are managing creation? Supreme Personality of Godhead. The living entities are eternally under the subjugation of the Almighty Lord. The Lord makes all the laws and orders, and these laws and orders are generally called dharma or religion. No one can create any religious formula. Bona fide religion is to abide by the orders of the Lord. The Lord's orders are clearly declared in the Bhagavad Gita. Everyone should follow him only, or his orders, and that will make all happy, both materially and spiritually. So why are these stringent laws there? It is simply there because the Lord wants you to be happy, both materially and spiritually, by following him, by surrendering to him, by following his order. Those who follow Krishna, they are both materially and spiritually happy. Those who don't follow Krishna will lack in happiness, will not be happy, will be suffering. So if we are suffering in any way, it's not because of the laws of material nature. It's not because of of other people, of other situations, of external circumstances. No, it's simply our own fault that we haven't surrendered completely to Krishna. We are not completely following him only. We are following a little of what he says and then a majority of what others say. We follow a little what Krishna says and then a majority of what my mind says. I follow a little of what Krishna says and a majority of what my senses say. And then I complain, I'm suffering. Krishna, it's unfair. No, it's not unfair. If you fully surrender to Krishna, as Prabhupada writes very, very clearly, very, very often in his Bhaktivedanta purports, you will be prosperous materially and spiritually without fail. As long as we are in the material world, our duty is to follow the orders of the Lord. And if by the grace of the Lord we are liberated from the clutches of the material world, then in our liberated stage also we can render transcendental service, loving service unto the Lord. So very wonderful Prabhupada is giving us the fact that you're in this material world, it is our duty to follow Krishna. And if you're in the spiritual world, then also out of love, you will follow Krishna. So following Krishna is not a choice. Yes, Krishna gives you that choice because he will not force you, but really, there is no other alternative for you to be happy. In our material stage, we can see neither ourselves nor the Lord for want of spiritual vision. But when we are liberated from the material affection and are situated in our original spiritual form, we can see both ourselves and the Lord face to face. Mukti means to be reinstated in one's original spiritual status after giving up the material conception of life. Therefore, human life is specially meant for qualifying ourselves for this spiritual liberty. This is the perfection of Krishna consciousness. This is the perfection of material life. This is the perfection of spiritual life. This is what we should strive for. This should be our desire. This should be our goal, aspiration, nothing else. To use this material existence to see Krishna face to face. And when we see Krishna face to face, we will see ourselves face to face. Rise above this material conception of life. We have unfortunately got this disease, this material body, this material conception of life. I am Indian, I'm African, I'm South African, I'm American, I'm human being, I'm animal. This is material disease. This is material effect. This is not you. You are a spiritual being. You are part and parcel of Krishna. And life's mission should be to revive this relationship. Unfortunately, under the influence of illusory material energy, we accept this spot life. We accept this spot life for only a few years as our permanent existence, and thus become illusioned by possessing so-called country, home, land, children, wife, community, wealth, etc., which are false representations created by Maya illusion. Very, very clear, and this is the truth. Unfortunately, truth can be very painful, but it is the truth. And under the dictation of Maya, we fight with one another to protect these false possessions. So we can see Prabhupada was able to see so clearly. It's not vague, it's not mist, it's like not foggy, it's like when there's fog, you can't see when you're driving and the atmosphere is foggy, it's very difficult to see what's ahead. You can't see, it's dangerous. Prabhupada's giving such clarity of our existence. And you will not find this clarity anywhere else but through the pages of the Bhagavatam, through the pages of the Bhaktivedanta purports. And under the dictation of Maya, we fight with one another to protect these false possessions. But by cultivating spiritual knowledge, we can realize that we have nothing to do with all this material paraphernalia. Then, at once, we become free from material attachment. This clearance of the misgiving of material existence at once takes place by association with the Lord's devotees, who are able to inject the transcendental sound into the depths of the bewildered heart and thus make one practically liberated from all lamentation and illusion. This is the summary of the pacifying measures for those affected by the reaction of the stringent material laws exhibited in the form of birth, death, old age, and disease, which are insoluble factors of material existence. How wonderful. It cannot be dissolved. You can't just, what they say, abracadabra, it's just, wave your wand, it's gone. No, it's insoluble. It cannot go. You can't dissolve it. It's there. It's stringent. There is no remedial measure. Anyone that's presenting you, the perfect pearl, well, they're lying. There is no red pearl. There is no green pearl, blue pearl, any pearl. There's no pearls. It is all, it's all false. It's all illusion, right? Take this booster shot and you'll be protected. No, there is no protection from the stringent laws of material existence. The real remedy is the sound vibration of the pure devotees, transcendental sound that goes into the depth of the bewildered heart. This is the real remedy. The victims of war, namely the family members of the Kurus, were lamenting the problems of death, and the Lord pacified them on the basis of knowledge. And we are blessed. Srila Prabhupada is pacifying us. We are in exactly the same situation as the Kauravas. There is no exclusion. And Prabhupada's purport, so beautiful, so powerful, entering our hearts. We should let Prabhupada's words go into the depths of our hearts and purify all that ignorance, that illusion, that lamentation. Prabhupada is giving us the clear direction, and is also giving us the process, and he's blessing us again and again for us to see Krishna face to face. And as they say, the ball is in our court. 5 and 6. Krishna establishes Yudhishthira's glories. Text 5. Sada yit vajata satro swam rajyam kativair hritam gata yitva sato rajna kachaspa spra Shatayusha. The clever Duryodhan and his party cunningly usurped the kingdom of Yudhishthira, who had no enemy. By the grace of the Lord, recovery was executed. And thus the unscrupulous kings who joined with Duryodhan were killed by him. Others also died, the duration of life having decreased for their rough handling of the hair of Queen Draupadi. Every action has a reaction. The Kauravas, and starting with Dushashan, Duryodhan, and everyone that was involved in roughly handling the hair of Queen Draupadi. It was that rough handling of her hair, threatening her chastity, that destroyed millions, say 640 million soldiers. So it's a world war. So we have to be very careful, and Prabhupada will bring this point up about chastity, protection of women. Because Krishna wanted to establish righteousness, and that means establishing a pure devotee as the king, as the ruler, the battle of Kurukshetra also ensued. Because at that time, irreligion was ruling in the form of Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. And the Lord descends to this world. Yada yada dharmasya glanirvavati bharata. The Lord appears to re-establish religious principles. So Yudhishthir and the Pandavas were given back the throne. Now Srila Prabhupada in the purport shares with us how to create successful humanity. And we can measure, we can use this purport to measure how successful is humanity currently. If it's not successful because we're not following these principles, then it is our duty to somehow or other, in whatever way we can, to propagate this culture. So Prabhupada writes, in the glorious days, or before the advent of the age of Kali, the Brahmanas, the cows, the women, the children, and the old men were properly given protection. 1. The protection of the Brahmanas maintains the institution of Varna and Ashrama, the most scientific culture for attainment of spiritual life. So in the chat, you can tell me whether this principle is broken in Kali Yuga. Are we following this principle or not? Right. So in relation to number 1, you can put 1 dot and tell me yes or no. Yes, we're following this principle. No, we're not. And I'm talking about humanity. I'm talking about the planet as a whole, right? Not in isolation. So let us know. We're going to go through these 5 principles. So as we're going through these 5 principles, you put the number and you tell me yes or no. Yes, we're following. No, we're not. Okay. Right. So first one, protection of Brahmanas, maintain the institution of Varna and the most scientific culture for attaining spiritual life. And we will see it's clearly been broken, which means that majority of the population are not able to attain spiritual life. If they're not able to attain spiritual life, the stringent laws of material nature is not going to give them peace. And that is why no one in this world, majority of the people in this world are not happy, because the Brahmanical culture is not protected. And Prabhupada, understanding this, created the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. He created the Brahmanical head. ISKCON, the Hare Krishna movement that Prabhupada started, was simply to create the Brahmanical head, the Brahmanas. So that once the Brahmanical head is created, then they can create the Varnashram system so that everyone can attain spiritual life. It starts with the head. If there is no head, you have no direction. We need proper direction. We need the head. In a family, in a society, in a company, in a village, in a country, in the planet, in the universe. Brahma is the head of the creation. We need the head. Very important. 2, the protection of cows maintains the most miraculous form of food. That is milk, for maintaining the finer tissues of the brain, for understanding higher aims of life. Are we following this culture? Now you find so many articles, milk is bad for you. Naturally, milk is bad for you, because where is that milk coming from? Not protected cows. It's coming from exploited cows. Just another point in relation to the Brahmanas. We're not talking about Brahmanas who are interested in their wallet. We are talking about real Brahmanas. So we're talking about protection of real Brahmanas, not the bogus Brahmanas, not the Brahmanas who are parasites, who are living at the cost of society. No, we are talking about the Brahmanical culture. Scripture describes Brahmana is Brahma Iti Brahmana, one who understands Brahman, one who understands the absolute truth, one who is living by the codes and conducts given by the Supreme Lord. That is the real Brahmana. And if you protect those devotees of the Lord who are in this varna, in this ashram, then that is beneficial. And similarly, protection of cows, because cows are exploited for food. We see animal farming, masses and masses of cow farms. They're exploited. This exploitation will never go in vain. They will get a reaction. Guarantee. Prabhupada again and again says, because of exploitation of cows, there will be mass war, there will be famine. You're going to get the reaction. It's coming, right? And we're getting it again and again and again. We don't learn. So that is why Krishna consciousness has to expand more and more. We need to give Krishna consciousness far and wide so that people understand these principles for them to be happy and for society to be happy. Milk is miraculous food. From protected cows, you get miraculous food. From non-protected cows, right, you get diseased food. So we want to protect cows. And that milk is very good for the brain tissues so that you can understand. It's brain food. Prabhupada says liquid religion, so that we can understand higher aims of life. If you eating meat, you will never understand the Supreme Lord. You will never understand subjects of the Supreme Lord. One has to give up this bad habit, this very sinful activity of eating meat. It destroys mercy. So very, very important. Then 3, the protection of women maintains the chastity of society, by which we can get a good generation for peace, tranquility, and progress of life. If we protect women, which means we protect the chastity of society, then we get good generation again and again, one generation after other, and they will have peace, tranquility, and be progressive in life. What's interesting here is we see that the culture of today's world is already unchaste. Women themselves already dress unchastely. I normally say they engage in cost saving. So, you know, previously the dresses and the cloth that was covering the body was covering, you know, the whole body right up to, you know, the practically below the ankles. And then due to life becoming more and more difficult, we had to do cost saving. And therefore the cost saving exercise reduces the garment more and more and more. Right. Madhuri says they suppose, you know, I'm saying this, reducing the cost, becoming shorter, but actually it's become more expensive. This is called cheating. They are breaking the chastity of society and at the same time exploiting and making more money. Prabhupada says the cheaters and the cheated. So this is the challenge. We have to understand the power of chastity of women. Chastity is very, very powerful. Consider the land. The land can produce fruits, vegetables, flowers again and again and again and again for generations if you look after the land properly. If you exploit the land, then you will find that it will not sustain itself to produce generation after generation. And this is what happens with, is what is happening with women's society. Therefore, women has to be protected. And when woman is protected, you will find that you will get blessed children coming into this world who will be peaceful, tranquil, and progressive. So Prabhupada taught us how to also be chaste, especially the women folk. Point 4, the protection of children gives human form of life its best chance to prepare the way of liberty from material bondage. Such protection of children begins from the very day of begetting a child by the purificatory process of Garbhadan Samskar, the beginning of pure life. So is 4 followed? Are people performing Garbhadan Samskar before conceiving a child? We find there's illicit connection. There's Varna Shankara, unwanted children. Children are discarded. Parents giving birth to children, and they're not even interested in looking after the children. So unwanted children are born in this world. Very, very unfortunate. Prabhupada went to the West and introduced, right in the early days, Prabhupada introduced this concept of Garbhadan Samskar. They had no idea what Prabhupada was talking about. What purificatory rite even before conception? What is that? And it is quite involved. It is quite involved. One devotee wrote a whole book on it. So it's quite involved. But Prabhupada gave them the very basic, chant 50 rounds before one conceives. Yes, 50 rounds. So one should chant 50 rounds. Now, when Prabhupada told them to chant 50 rounds before conceiving, Brahmananda Prabhu was discussing with Srila Prabhupada, and he said, Prabhupada, 50 rounds before conceiving, I'll forget the idea of conceiving. Prabhupada said, that's the idea. You need to, because if you have lusty thoughts in your mind, how can you bring in pure souls? Because according to the consciousness of the parents at the time of conception, you will attract that soul. So therefore, the Garbhadan Samskar is there to bring these pure souls who can now start spiritual life from the beginning. And in this way, bless their own life and all those that they're going to meet. 5. Yes, protect children. We find so much exploitative labor, child molestation. From small children are exposed to so much pornography. So it's unfortunate. Kali Yuga is really taking its toll. We can see the children, even now, children have adult diseases, never thought of. And then protection of old men gives them a chance to prepare themselves for better life after death. It's not like they're sent to an old age home just to die playing cards, watching television. Very, very, very unfortunate. So we can see this is so unfortunate that we're not protecting the Brahminical culture. We're not protecting cows. We're not protecting women. We're not protecting children. We're not protecting the elderly. And therefore, the world is in such a mess. If we want to see people happy, we have to introduce these aspects of protection. Prabhupada writes, this complete outlook is based on factors leading to successful humanity as against the civilization of polished cats and dogs. This is the state of our planet, polished cats and dogs. You have a cat and you have a dog and you polish them nicely, however you promise, you're polishing them. You polish them, right? So you polish the cat, you polish the dog. They have, dog parlor, cat parlor, poodles, and, it's made so nicely, and shampoo and everything, right? And there you have the cat and you have the dog. How are they going to act? Like cats and dogs. Where is they polished or not? So that's unfortunately how human civilization is acting. The killing of the above mentioned innocent creatures is totally forbidden, because even by insulting them, What about exploiting them? What about harming them? Even by insulting them, one loses one's duration of life. Therefore, Draupadi's insult was destructive. In the age of Kali, they are not properly protected, and therefore the duration of life of the present generation has shortened considerably. It's supposed to be 100 years. Now in many countries, it's like 50, 60 years, and it's decreasing more and more. And it's going to decrease more and more. As long as we do not follow these principles of protection, Kali Yuga's lifespan will decrease more and more. Bhagavatam predicts in the midst of Kali Yuga, your maximum lifespan will be 25 years. Therefore, we see Prabhupada says the need to spread Krishna consciousness. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that when the women become unchaste for want of proper protection, they are unwanted children called Varna Shankara. To insult a chaste woman means to bring about disaster in the duration of life. Dushashan, the brother of Duryodhan, insulted Draupadi, an ideal chaste lady, and therefore miscreants died untimely. These are some of the stringent laws of the Lord mentioned above. So Prabhupada connects it very beautifully to the stringent laws. There is no remedy. You transgress, there's a reaction. If you are not protecting and harming these 5 categories of personalities, then you will get a reaction. It's interesting. The Brahmana is a personality. The cow is also a personality. Women folk are personalities. The children are personalities. And elderly folk are also personalities. One time they asked Srila Prabhupada, which animal's milk is the best? And Prabhupada said, buffalo or goat. Buffalo. And then the devotee said, oh, but Prabhupada, what about cow? Prabhupada said, cow is not animal. Cow is our mother. So we have to protect our mothers, our brahmanas, our daughters, our mothers, our children, and our elderly folk. Text 6. Yajayit yitvas vade va medas medestam tribir utamakalpakai tat yasha pavana dikshu sattamanyor ivatanot. Lord Shri Krishna caused the 3 well-performed Ashwamedha Yagyas, horse sacrifice, to be conducted by Yudhishthira, and thus caused his virtues fame to be glorified in all directions, like that of Indra, who had performed 100 such sacrifice. So after, and this specific incident is not chronological, because he's basically just explaining that Lord Krishna encouraged Yudhishthira to perform the Ashwamedha sacrifice. And the reason for the Ashwamedha sacrifice was so that prosperity could be given to all. You find throughout the Vedas, this Ashwamedha sacrifice is recommended. The horse is sent out and everybody has to accept the reign of the emperor. In this way, the emperor becomes the ruler of the whole planet, and he accumulates sufficient wealth so that all his subjects are protected, are happy, and they provided for all their needs. Prabhupada in the purport says, this is something like the preface to the performance of the Ashwamedha Yajna by Yudhishthira. The comparison of Yudhishthira to the king of heaven is significant. The king of heaven is thousands and thousands of times greater than Yudhishthira in opulence. Yet the fame of Yudhishthira was not less. The reason is that Yudhishthira was a pure devotee of the Lord, and by his grace only was King Yudhishthira on the level of the king of heavens, even though he performed only 3 yagyas, whereas the king of heaven performed hundreds. So here is Prabhupada's important instruction. The Lord is equal to everyone, but a devotee of the Lord is more glorified because he's always in touch with the All Great. We find in the Mahabharata war, the Kauravas had 11 Apshohinis. The Pandavas had 7, yet they won the battle. So similarly here we find Yudhishthira Maharaj, he only performed 3 Ashwamedha sacrifices. Indra performed 100. Yet Maharaj Yudhishthira was as glorious, as famous as Indra. Why? Because he was connected to the All Great. If we want to be glorious, if we want to be wonderful, happy, blissful, powerful, famous, even though the devotee doesn't desire these things, but these things can be achieved simply by connecting ourselves with the all-powerful, the all-great, the all-famous Krishna. The devotee naturally gets all these benefits because they are connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And in an Ashwamedha sacrifice, they don't kill. This is the Ashwamedha Yagya. This is not a horse sacrifice. They don't kill a horse. The horse is released, and whoever stops the horse gets a reaction. Or the army is there. The king sends his army, and they have to fight the army. Right? So it's not like animal sacrifices. Nowhere in the Vedas is a sacrifice there to kill an animal. What they would also use generally in any yagya, at the end of the yagya, they would test whether the yagya, the fire sacrifice, was perfectly followed. So what they would do is they would bring an old cow or old horse and put that horse through the fire. And as the horse goes through the fire, it comes out youthful. Right? It wasn't about killing animals for eating, which is eventually what it ended up, due to miscreants. And that is why Lord Buddha came to stop animal sacrifice, or rather he came to stop people from following the Vedas, where they got the sacrifices from. The sun rays are equally distributed, but still there are some places which are also dark, always dark. This is not due to the sun, but due to the receptive power. Similarly, those who are sent devotees of the Lord get the full-fledged mercy of the Lord, which is always equally distributed everywhere. I will repeat that again. Similarly, those who are sent devotees of the Lord get the full-fledged mercy of the Lord, which is always equally distributed everywhere. Means anyone, anywhere, everywhere can get the full-fledged mercy of the Lord. It's available. But what is the power, the potency, the rens and sense, if you are to say, to access that mercy? It is the devotees' 100% surrender. So to the degree one is 100% dedicated, depending on the Lord, to that degree one gets the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we want to be 100% devotees, not a 1% devotee, a 2%, a 5%, a 10%, a 50%, a 80%, 90%, 99%. No, we want to be 100% devotees. This is the goal, this is the target, this is the aspiration. Yes, we may start at 1, but don't stop at 1. You need to keep progressing until we are 100% devotees, 100% devoted to the desire, the wish, instructions of the Lord and his pure devotees. Now we come to the second section, verses 5 to 17. Lord Krishna saves Parikshit in the womb. So 7 to 10. Uttara cries out for help. Lord Krishna, who is departing for Dwarka. Text 7. Amantriya Pandu Putranamscha Saineyo Dava Samyuta Dvaipanyana Dibirvi Prai Pujita Pratipujita. Lord Krishna, Lord Shri Krishna then prepared for his departure. He visited the sons of Pandu after having been worshipped by the Brahmanas, headed by Srila Vyasadeva. The Lord also reciprocated greetings. So now the battle of Kurukshetra is over. They lamented, and the Lord pacified them, and now the Lord is departing back to Dwarka. Prabhupada in the purport says, apparently Lord Shri Krishna was a Kshatriya and was not worshipable by the Brahmanas. But the Brahmanas present there, headed by Srila Vyasadeva, all knew him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore they worshipped him. The Lord reciprocated the greetings just to honor the social order that a Kshatriya is obedient to the orders of the Brahmanas. Remember, we talked, Prabhupada gave in the previous purport the culture of protecting Brahmanas. Here we see Krishna, even though he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, yet he's setting the example of protecting and respecting the Brahmanas, even as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although Lord Shri Krishna was always offered the respects due to the Supreme Lord from all responsible quarters, the Lord never deviated from the customary usages between the four orders of society. The Lord purposely observed all these social customs so that others would follow him in the future. In Bhagavad Gita also the Lord says, there's no duty for me, but I follow the rules, the regulations, the codes that are there. Why? Because if I deviate, then everybody will use that as an excuse. So therefore the Lord follows. When he comes to this world, he abides by the same conducts that we are meant to follow. This is how important it is to follow the codes of religion, as Prabhupada says, the laws of God. Krishna himself follows that. So it's very, very important that we abide, we are inspired by Krishna to also follow the codes of conduct. Not all the Brahmanas could understand Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but there were others like Vyasadeva and others that they understood. Therefore, you very often find that when Krishna, for example, takes Sandipani Muni as his spiritual master, but Sandipani Muni also knows this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So internally, they're offering obeisances. My Lord, I offer my obeisance to you, not the other way around. But Krishna, acting as a student, he would offer respects to his spiritual master. So the Lord does this, having relationships, rasa, exchanging relationship with his different devotees. Text 8. Gantum krita matir brahman dwaraka kam katratam ashitam upalebe bidan bantim utaram bayam vivalam. As soon as he seated himself on the chariot to start for Dwarka, he saw Uttara hurrying towards him in fear. Purport. All the members of the family of the Pandavas were completely dependent on the protection of the Lord, and therefore the Lord protected all of them in all circumstances. Remember the previous statement that Prabhupada said, 100% devotees of the Lord get the full-fledged mercy of the Lord. So here Prabhupada is making the point again. Those who are completely dependent on the protection of the Lord gets the full protection in all circumstances. If you partially surrender, then Krishna partially protects. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, as you surrender to me, I reward you accordingly. So it's not Krishna's fault if we are not protected. It is our own fault. If we are not protected in any circumstance, do not point a finger at Krishna. If you are not protected in any circumstance, understand that's a lack on ourselves, our own surrender. And therefore, that should be the impetus to surrender more. The Lord protects everyone, but one who depends completely upon him is especially looked after by the Lord. Thus, the father is more attentive to the little son who is exclusively dependent on the father. This is the attitude. Just as the son is completely dependent on the father exclusively, we need to cultivate this consciousness. We need to cultivate this dependence. So here we find Mother Uttara is hurrying towards the Lord in fear. Why is she running towards the Lord in fear? Next verse says, Uttaro vacha pahi pahi mahayogin deva deva jagatpate nanyam tvad bayam pashe yatra mrutyu parashparam. Beautiful prayer offered by Uttara, Mother Uttara. When we in fear, when we in danger, we can use this prayer and call out, Pahi Pahi Mahayogin, O Lord of Lords, Lord of the universe, Deva Deva Jagat Pate, you are the greatest of mystics. Please protect me, for there is no one else who can save me from the clutches of death in this world of duality. There is no remedial measure besides this one. This is the remedial measure. Pandavas knew that very, very clearly. Mother Uttara, she knew that very, very clearly. So here she is running in fear, praying to the Lord, O Lord of Lords, Lord of the universe, you are the greatest of mystics. Please protect me, please protect me. Now, we find that Uttara, she's in difficulty and she's running for protection, not from the Pandavas, but she's running for protection to the Supreme Lord. And the Pandavas, they didn't say, Uttara, what's your problem? We are here. You should be asking us for protection. You know, we are powerful, we are warriors. No, they were happy that Uttara, Mother Uttara, was running to Krishna for shelter. Because ultimately, everybody has to run to Krishna for shelter. This is the lesson that the Bhagavatam is teaching us again and again and again. Krishna is the ultimate protector. No one else can protect, especially from death. Krishna. Krish means death, Na means protect. That personality that can protect you from death, it is Krishna, no one else. Prabhupada in the purport says, this material world is a world of duality, in contrast with the oneness of the absolute realm. The world of duality is composed of matter and spirit, whereas the absolute world is complete spirit without any tinge of material qualities. In the dual world, everyone is falsely trying to become the master of the world, whereas in the absolute world, the Lord is the absolute Lord and all others are his absolute servitors. In the world of duality, everyone is inevitable due to the dual existence of matter and spirit. The Lord is the only shelter of fearlessness for the surrendered soul. One cannot save himself from the cruel hands of death in the material world without having surrendered himself at the lotus feet of the Lord. The more we put Krishna in the center, the less dualities there will be. In the spiritual, Krishna is the center of every single devotee's life. Spiritual means Krishna is the center. Material world means you the center. Therefore, the more we put Krishna in the center of our family, the center of our own lives, the center of our family, the center of our community, the center of our society, the less dualities we will experience of hate, anger, hot, cold, good, bad, happiness, sadness, etc., birth and death, the ultimate duality. So we have to understand this is the secret, this is the remedy to bring Krishna in the center of our lives. And how wonderful this material world with its dualities is a perfect impetus to practice again and again this principle of surrendering to Krishna, this principle of depending on Krishna. So we have to realize this. Text 10. Abhidravati mam isha sharastapta yasho vibhu kaman dayatu mam nata man me garbo vipatyatam. O Lord, you are all powerful. A fiery iron arrow is coming towards me fast. My Lord, let it burn me personally if you so desire, but please do not let it burn and abort my embryo. Please do me this favor, my Lord. So this is the reason why Mother Uttara ran to Krishna in fear and asking for protection. There was a fiery weapon that was fast approaching her. Initially, she said, my Lord, protect me. Now here she is telling the Lord, I'm not interested in my protection. But as a mother, I meant to protect my child in my womb. One of the principles of cultured society is to protect children. So the parents' duty is to protect children. Therefore, Mother Uttara, being completely cultured, is practically ready to sacrifice her life for the protection of a child. So she's saying, I don't mind being burnt, but please, my Lord, protect the child. I am not able to protect my child, but you are. Why? Because you're all powerful. And therefore, my Lord, please do this favor. So we see how beautiful this relationship is. Prabhupada says, Krishna is your friend. You can speak to Krishna like a friend. Just like you tell, hey friend, can you do me a favor? So you can pray to Krishna, please, my Lord, do me a favor. It's a relationship. And the Lord will reciprocate as he so desires. Prabhupada in the purport says, this incident took place after the death of Abhimanyu, the husband of Uttara. Abhimanyu was the son of Arjuna. Abhimanyu's widow, Uttara, should have followed the path of her husband, but because she was pregnant and Maj Parikshit, a great devotee of the Lord, was lying in embryo, she was responsible for his protection. So Maj Parikshit is in the womb of Mother Uttara, who's the mother. The mother of a child has a great responsibility in giving all protection to the child. And therefore, Uttara was not ashamed to express this frankly before the Lord Krishna. Uttara was the daughter of a great king, King Virat, the wife of a great hero, Abhimanyu, student of a great devotee, Arjuna, and later she was the mother of a good king, Maj Parikshit also. She was fortunate in every respect. So she was blessed in so many ways. And because of this blessing, she also understood very, very clearly the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore she ran and took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She wasn't embarrassed that, the Pandavas are here, why am I not taking shelter of the Pandavas? No, I'm taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then 11 to 14, Lord Krishna counteracts the Brahmastra. 11. Suto vacha upadarya vachastasya bhagavan bhakta vatsalam apandavam idam kartum droner astram abudyata. Sutta Goswami said, having patiently heard her words, Lord Shri Krishna, who is always very affectionate to his devotees, could at once understand that Ashwatthama, the son of Dronacharya, had thrown the Brahmastra to finish the last life in the Pandava family. So looks like Ashwatthama never learned his lesson. And this is unfortunate. This is what happens. We are given a lesson and we may not learn from the lesson. Therefore, we have to very often be given the lesson again and again and again and again and again until we learn. Prabhupada says there are three classes of intelligence. The first class, this is the best class, is you are told by your parents, do not steal, it's bad for you, and you learn. Yes, parents say, don't steal, I'm not stealing. This is first class intelligence. Second class intelligence, parents tell you, don't steal. You go ahead and steal, you get punished. You get 1 year imprisonment or some sentence, you get punished, you learn stealing is bad. I don't want to steal. Second class, not so bad. A lot of majority of people fall in this category. Third class, we don't want to be. Parents say, don't steal. You steal, you get punished. You come out, you steal, you get punished. You come out, you still get punished. You don't learn. We don't want to be in that category. So Ashwatthama, unfortunately, did not learn his lesson. So he shot a Brahmastra. It's ascribed that he actually shot multiple Brahmastras to kill the Pandavas, but specifically in this incident, in this pastime, he's now shot the Brahmastra to kill Mahashya Parikshit in the womb. Already he got punished for performing an abominable act of killing sleeping children. Now he's killing a child who's not even born with a Brahmastra. How abominable. Prabhupada says in the purport, and here it's described, Krishna heard patiently because time is controlled by Krishna. So Krishna very patiently heard Mother Uttara. The Lord is impartial in every respect, but still he's inclined towards his devotees because there is a great necessity of this for everyone's well-being. I'm going to read that again. The Lord is impartial in every respect, but still he's inclined towards his devotees. Why? Because there is a great necessity. What is that necessity of this for everyone's well-being? The more devotees we have, the more everyone will be happy. There'll be well-being for people. Which means if you become a devotee, you will benefit everyone. Why? Because a devotee will not be like Ashwatthama to harm people. The devotee will be like Mother Uttara, that even at the cost of my life, protect my child. She was not interested in her own life. She was interested in protecting another soul. This is devotee. A devotee is not interested in his own perfection. He's interested in the perfection of others. This is a pure devotee. This is devotee. We are interested in the welfare, the protection, the happiness of others. So the more devotees we make, the better it will be for humanity. The more parents bring children into this world and groom them as devotees. So you can make devotees two ways. You can make devotees by making children, and you can make devotees by preaching. Both should be there, so that more and more devotees are populating this world, and this way benefiting. The Pandava family was a family of devotees, and therefore the Lord wanted them to rule the world. So the more devotees we make, and when we have so many devotees, now we can have a village. And we have so many villages, we can have now, or so many cities, now we can have a minister, right? The mayor of our city. who can now be eventually be posted as the king, as the president. So in this way, this is how we have to also help. It's not a selfish interest, but for the well-being of everyone. Because a devotee will live his life and will rule his citizens according to the success formula that Prabhupada gave us, where everyone can be happy materially and spiritually by following the 5 aspects of protection of the brahmanas, of the cows, of the women, of the children, and of the elderly. That was the reason he vanquished the rule of the company of Duryodhan and established the rule of Mahayudhishthira. Therefore, he also wanted to protect Maharaj Parikshit, who was lying in the embryo. He did not like the idea that the world should be without the Pandavas, the ideal family of devotees. So here's the hint that even the Pandavas, Ashwatthama shot more than one Brahmastra to kill the Pandavas, and Maharaj Parikshit was in the womb. 12. Taryevata Muni Shreshta Pandava Pancha Sankhyan Pandava Pancha Sayakan Atmano Bimukhan Diptan Alakshyastranya Upadatu. O foremost among the great thinkers, Munis, Shonaka, seeing the glaring Brahmastra proceeding towards them, the Pandavas took up their 5 respective weapons. So naturally, they all saw the Brahmastra, and immediately they took up their weapons to counteract the Brahmastra. Now, Prabhupada talks about the Brahmastra. The Brahmastras are finer than the nuclear weapons. Ashwatthama discharged the Brahmastra simply to kill the Pandavas, namely the 5 brothers headed by Mahayudhishthira and their only grandson, who was lying within the womb of Uttara. Therefore, the Brahmastra more effective and finer than the atomic weapon was not as blind as the atomic weapon. When the atomic bombs are discharged, they do not discriminate between the target and others. Many atomic bombs do harm to the innocent because there is no control. The Brahmastra is not like that. It marks out the target and proceeds accordingly without harming the innocent. So this is the power of the Brahmastra. Ashwatthama released the Brahmastra to kill Maharaj Parikshit in the womb. And it would go no matter where the target is. It'll find the target and only destroy the target. This is how powerful the Brahmastra is, very fine-tuned. Not like atomic bomb, you release it, you have no control, and you practically can destroy, innocent people, land, etc. But Brahmastra is very, very focused. It goes only and kills only the target. Nobody else gets killed. So immediately, the Pandavas take up their weapons to counteract the Brahmastra. And now we see how the Lord responds. Vyasanam Viksha Tattesham Ananya Vishayatmanam Sudarshanena Swakrena Swanam Raksham Vyadad Vibhu. The Almighty Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, having observed that a great danger was befalling his unalloyed devotees, who were fully surrendered souls, at once took up his Sudarshan disk to protect them. Now it is interesting that the Mahabharata war apparently ended. Ashwatthama is still attacking, which means technically it's not ended, because the opponent, the enemy on that side, is still releasing weapons, still attacking. So therefore, the Mahabharata war technically is still continuing. Ashwatthama is still not convinced and is still prolonging, trying to do what he can, what he thinks is best to win. Or rather, if I'm not going to live, I might as well kill everyone. This is the nature of demons. And on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna promised that he would not pick up any weapons. And here we see Krishna intervening, protecting the Pandavas by picking up or invoking his Sudarshan Chakra. So he's breaking his promise. He broke his promise already the first time when he picked up the chariot wheel to protect Arjuna, and is breaking it again for his unalloyed devotees. And Prabhupada in the purport says, beautiful purport, the Brahmastra, the supreme weapon released by Ashwatthama, was something similar to the nuclear weapon, but with more radiation and heat. This Brahmastra is the product of a more subtle science, being the product of finer sound, a mantra recorded in the Vedas. Another advantage of this weapon is that it is not blind like a nuclear weapon because it can be directed only to the target and nothing else. Ashwatthama released the weapon just to finish all the male members of the Pandava family. Therefore, in one sense, it was more dangerous than the atomic bomb because it could penetrate even the most protected place and would never miss the target. So really speaking, the Brahmastra is the weapon in creation. There is no weapon greater than Brahmastra. Why? Because Lord Brahma is also, you could say, the head of this planet, the greatest being within this material creation. And therefore, there is no weapon greater than Brahmastra. We find that Ashwatthama released this weapon, Brahmastra, and no one really can counteract. No other weapon can be used to counteract this Brahmastra weapon, besides another Brahmastra, besides evoking it. But there is no other weapon that can counteract. Therefore, it's said to be the greatest weapon. Right? And when this weapon is released, because no other weapon can counteract this weapon, that means that it will always hit its target. It will never miss its target. Knowing all this, Lord Shri Krishna at once took up his personal weapon to protect his devotees. So the Lord noticed that danger is approaching and there is no sufficient time for the Pandavas to counteract the weapon. And therefore the Lord, noticing this, immediately took up his own weapon to protect his devotees, who did not know anyone other than Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has clearly promised that his devotees are never to be vanquished, and he behaves according to the qualities or the degree of the devotional service rendered by the devotees. Again, Prabhupada is making the point. According to your quality and degree of devotional service, then the Lord behaves accordingly. The Lord reciprocates accordingly. 5% behavior surrender, Krishna responds 5%. Here the word ananya, vishayatmanam, is significant. The Pandavas were 100% dependent on the protection of the Lord. Although they were all great warriors themselves, this is the irony. They were powerful warriors, yet they were 100% dependent on the Lord. This contradiction needs to be reconciled in our consciousness. Because if I'm a great devotee, if I'm a great warrior, why do I need protection? I'm great, I can protect myself, I'm powerful. But the Lord neglects even the greatest warriors and also vanquishes them in no time. When the Lord saw that there was no time for the Pandavas to counteract the Brahmastra of Ashwatthama, he took up his weapon even at the risk of breaking his own vow. Although the battle of Kurukshetra was almost finished, still according to his vow, he should not have taken up his own weapon. And here's the punchline. But the emergency was more important than the vow. He is better known as Bhakta Vatsa, or the lover of his devotee, and thus he preferred to continue as Bhakta Vatsa than to be a worldly moralist who never breaks his solemn vow. People will say, oh, Krishna, you're a liar. You didn't lie once, you lied so many times. Even in Vrindavan, you were lying. You stole butter, you said you didn't steal butter. You're a liar. So you lied so many times. You're a thief. You stole so many things. Krishna was not worried. You ran away from the battlefield, Ranchor. You can call me names. Thief, liar, weakling, whatever, you can call me. What's more important is Krishna as Bhakta Vatsal. So for Krishna, this quality of Bhakta Vatsal, this quality of being inclined to his devotees, this quality of Krishna doing anything to protect his relationship with his devotees, this love that Krishna has for his devotees, this is why Krishna is worshipped, glorified as the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to Jiva Goswami. Jiva Goswami says, we worship Krishna because he is Bhaktavatsa. Not because he's powerful, not because he's God, not because of any other quality, but because of this quality that is Bhaktavatsa. Because he loves his devotees. He will go out of his way for his devotees, even at the cost of being called immoral, a liar, a thief. It's okay. You can give me whatever names you want to give me, but I love my devotees. This is the personality that we are surrendering. This is the Supreme Lord that we want to revive our relationship with. This is the Supreme Lord that we want to meet face to face. This is the Supreme Lord that we're rendering devotional service to. No ordinary personality. This is Krishna. He's got a personality. And this is the most exemplary, most wonderful quality of Krishna, his quality of Bhaktavatsa. Text 14. Antasta sarva bhutanam atma yogeshvara varohari swamayayar no nodgarbham vairatya kurutantave. The Lord of supreme mysticism, Yogeshwara, Shri Krishna, resides within everyone's heart as Paramatma. As such, just to protect the progeny of the Kuru dynasty, he covered the embryo of Uttara by his personal energy. So Krishna is outside, right? But he's also Anantasta Sarva Bhutanam. He's also inside and he's everywhere. This is Krishna's power of protection. He can protect you from the outside. He can protect you from the inside. He can protect you anytime and everywhere. This is Krishna. So the Lord of supreme mysticism, Shri Krishna, resides within everyone's heart as the Paramatma. So he knows and he protects. And with his own personal energy, he protected the embryo. Now, what is interesting, Prabhupada in the purport says, the Lord of the supreme mysticism can simultaneously reside within everyone's heart or even within the atom by his Paramatma feature, his plenary portion. Therefore, from within the Lord, from within the body of Uttara, he covered the embryo to save Maharaj Parikshit and protect the progeny of Maharaj Kuru, of whom King Pandu was also descendant. Both the sons of Dhritarashtra and those of Pandu belong to the same dynasty of Maharaj Kuru. Therefore, both of them were generally known as Kurus. But when there were differences between the two families, the sons of Dhritarashtra were known as Kurus, whereas the sons of Pandu were known as Pandavas. Since the son and grandsons of Dhritarashtra were all killed in the battle of Kurukshetra, the last son of the dynasty is designated as the son of the Kurus. And Krishna is personally protecting this embryo. The Acharya is described, Krishna came in the womb. And this pastime, we will hear about this also in the 12th chapter. When we hear the life of Maharaj Parikshit, we will hear it also from a different perspective. We won't go into there, but we also hear it again. Krishna came with his own personal energy. He had his Sudarshan Chakra. And Acharya says that Krishna also took up his Gada. So not only did he have his chakra, but he also took up his Gada. His chakra no doubt never fails. But Krishna, as Bhakta Vatsa, he's thinking, no, just in case my Sudarshan don't work, then I'm going to use my Gada also. Just double protection. For my devotees, not just one protection, double protection for my devotees. This is Krishna's Bhakta Vatsa. He will do anything, whatever it takes, go more out to protect his devotees. This is how much he loves his devotees. Now we may say, but these devotees are so blessed, he's so fortunate. Yeah, I'm a rascal, I'm rotting in this material world. I'm so unfortunate. Prabhupada was giving a talk. And when Prabhupada was giving the talk, he was talking about Krishna, how much Krishna loves us. And Prabhupada was saying that as many waves as there are in the ocean, that's how many times Krishna appears to encourage us to surrender to his lotus feet. And as Prabhupada was saying this, Prabhupada was crying. This is how much Krishna loves us. As many waves as there are in the ocean, that's how many times Krishna appears to encourage us. Come back. This is not your home. You'll be happy back in the spiritual world. Krishna is encouraging. So we should heed Krishna's calling. Another point is Krishna understood the emergency. As soon as the Brahmastra was shot, yes, the Pandavas immediately took up the weapons. They obviously, according to their capacity, they saw the danger and they immediately reacted. Right? So they reacted according to their capacity, but their capacity was insufficient to protect Maharaj Parikshit. They may be great, they may be powerful, but as infallible living beings, we have our deficiencies, different capacities. Krishna is complete. Krishna is all perfect. Krishna is all timely. Krishna can have no shortcomings at all. Even if there's a shortcoming, Krishna can impossibly arrange that shortcoming becomes overpowered. This is Krishna. Yogeshwara, he's the mystic. Yogeshwara Hari, he can take away anything, any difficulty, any situation. One time, in terms of timely, it's interesting how one time, one security, he was serving at the temple as a security guard. So what happened was a thief came in and picked up a deity of Prabhupada, stealing a deity of Prabhupada and was going out. So when the thief came in and the security guard saw this thief taking Srila Prabhupada, the security guard, being a devotee, saw Srila Prabhupada, so he offered dandavats. He offered dandavats. And the thief was carrying on going because the security guard is a devotee. Oh, this Prabhupada offering obeisances. And the thief carried on. And the devotees realizing that somebody is stealing, telling the security guard, hey, stop offering praise, there's a thief, get Prabhupada back. We have our lack. Somehow or other, this is the nature. But Krishna has no lack. Absolutely no lack. Therefore, we should be rest assured, if we take shelter of Krishna, rest assured, we have to have this firm faith and conviction that we will be protected without fail, every time, anywhere, in any circumstance. 15 and 17, the Lord's inconceivable power to protect. Text 15. Yadyapyastram brahmas shiras tva amogam chapratikriyam vaishnavam teja asadya samasamyad brigudvaha ukshanaka. Glory of the Brigu's family. Although the supreme Brahmastra weapon released by Ashwatthama was irresistible and without check or counteraction, it was neutralized and foiled when confronted by the strength of Vishnu Lord Krishna. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Brahma Jyoti, or the glowing transcendental effulgence, is resting on Lord Shri Krishna. In other words, the glowing effulgence known as the Brahma Teja is nothing but the rays of the Lord. Just as the sun rays are rays of the sun disk, so the Brahma weapon also, although materially irresistible, could not surpass the supreme strength of the Lord. The weapon called Brahmastra, released by Ashwatthama, was neutralized and foiled by Lord Shri Krishna by his own energy. That is to say, he did not wait for any other's help because he is absolute. Normally, if there's a dangerous situation, whatever the danger may be, you are trying to protect yourself and now you're waiting for some others to come and help. Krishna needs no help. He does not have to wait. Oh, I see this is a difficult situation. I think we need more help. Can we call 911 or 999 or whatever number you're going to call to get more help, please? Nope. Krishna does not need to summon more help. Why? Because he is absolute. That is the person the Bhagavatam is encouraging us to surrender to. Here we see Maharaj Parikshit folding his hands, being protected by the Supreme Lord. What a blessed event. Such a blessing that in the womb, he is seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What a blessing. He's folding his hands, blessed by the darshan of the Supreme Lord. In the third canto, third chapter, verse 17, there's a discussion. Uddhava is sharing this. The embryo of Puru's descendant, begotten by the great hero Abhimanyu in the womb of Uttara, his wife, was burned by the weapon of the son of Drona, but later he was again protected by the Lord. Purport. The embryonic body of Parikshit, which was in formation after Uttara's pregnancy by Abhimanyu, the great hero, was burnt by the Brahmastra of Ashwatthama. So here we hear that Maharaj Parikshit was actually burnt. But a second body was given by the Lord within the womb, and thus the descendant of Puru was saved. This incident is the direct proof that the body and the living entity, the spiritual spark, are different. When the living entity takes shelter in the womb of a woman through the injection of the semen of a man, there is an emulsification of the man's and woman's discharges, and thus a body is formed, size of a pea, gradually developing into a complete body. But if the developing embryo is destroyed in some way or other, the living entity has to take shelter in another body or in the womb of another woman. A particular living entity who was selected to be the descendant of Maharaj Puru or the Pandavas was not an ordinary living entity, and by the superior will of the Lord, he was destined to be the successor of Maharaj Yudhishthira. Therefore, when Ashwatthama destroyed the embryo of Parikshit Maharaj, the Lord, by his own internal potency, entered into the womb of Uttara by his plenary portion, just to give audience to the would-be Maharaj Parikshit, who was in great danger. By his appearance within the womb, the Lord encouraged the child and gave him complete protection in a new body by his omnipotency. By his power of omnipresence, he was present both inside and outside of Uttara and the other members of the Pandava family. So here also, the Krishna is a king of Dwarka, and he's also protecting the child. As we heard, one of the cultures of civilized life of leaders is to protect children. So Krishna is even protecting Maharaj Parikshit, even in the womb, blessing him in this way. 18. Mamam stayat yatet yatad ascharyam sarvacharya yamane achyutam ya idam maya devya shrijatya vati hantyaja. O Brahmanas, do not think this is to be especially wonderful in the activities of the mysterious and infallible personality of Godhead. By his own transcendental energies, he creates, maintains, and annihilates all material things, although he himself is unborn. So when the sages were hearing this pastime by Sudha Goswami, naturally they were, wow, this is far out. And Sudha Goswami is saying, oh Brahmanas, do not think this to be especially wonderful. Krishna can do anything. He can do the inconceivable. He is Achyuta. He has unlimited, inconceivable powers. Krishna can do anything. The activities of the Lord are always inconceivable to the tiny brain of the living entities. Nothing is impossible for the Supreme Lord, but all his actions are wonderful for us. And thus his actions are wonderful. Nothing is impossible for the Supreme Lord, but all his actions are wonderful for us. And thus he is always beyond the range of our conceivable limits. The Lord is the all-powerful, the all-perfect personality of Godhead. The Lord is 100% perfect, whereas others, namely Narayan, Brahma, Shiva, demigods, and other living beings, possesses only different percentage of such perfection. No one is equal to or greater than him. He is unrivaled. Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki jai. Krishna is unrivaled. He is all perfect. He's 100% perfect. Right? He's inconceivable. He's absolute. This is Krishna. This is this person that we're surrendering to. Text 17. Brahma tejo vinir mukter atmajay saha krishnaya pranana bimukha krishnam idam aha prita satir. Thus saved from the radiation of the Brahmastra, Kunti, chaste devotee of the Lord, and her 5 sons and Draupadi addressed Lord Krishna as he started for home. Prabhupada in the purport says, Kunti is described herein as sati, or chaste, due to her unalloyed devotion to Lord Shri Krishna. Her mind will now be expressed in the following prayers for Lord Krishna. A chaste devotee of the Lord does not look to others, namely any other living being or demigod, even for deliverance from danger. That was all along the characteristic of the whole family of the Pandavas. They knew nothing except Krishna, and therefore the Lord was also ready to help them in all respects and in all circumstances. That is the transcendental nature of the Lord. He reciprocates the dependence of the devotee. One should not therefore look for help from imperfect living beings or demigods. but one should look for help from Lord Shri Krishna, who is competent to save his devotees. Such a chaste devotee also never asks the Lord for help, but the Lord, out of his own accord, is always anxious to render it. This is the perfection of chastity. We surrender to the Supreme Lord, cent percent. And we only are interested in taking shelter of Krishna and nobody else. Prabhupada, in a letter to Satsarupma, says, so anyone who surrenders to Krishna, his destiny is changed by the omnipotency of God. He takes charge of the devotee and guides him how the devotee can go back home, back to God. This is the mercy of God. And how the Lord takes charge, how the Lord protects, that is up to the Lord's free will, heart, and desire. Here we see the Lord protected Maharaj Parikshit by giving him a new body. We may find the Lord wants to protect you by allowing you to leave this body and take another birth. We see the Lord protecting his different devotees in different circumstances. With Sudama, the Lord was protecting him and his devotional service by bestowing him inconceivable opulences. We see in different situations, the Lord may take away opulences to protect one. So in different ways, in Maharaj Parikshit's case, later the Lord took away all his opulences and then bestowed Bhagavatam to him. So many ways the Lord protects. We should have firm faith and conviction in the capacity of the Lord. Here Prabhupada says he is competent and is fully competent. We should never doubt Krishna's competency. So in conclusion, we need to depend on the Lord. And one of the 6 limbs of surrender, Rakshisyatita Vishvaso, having faith that only the Lord is one's protector. So I'd like you to type in the chat all the reasons why it behooves us to take shelter of the Lord and why the Lord can protect us. As we went through the different verses, there were different qualities of Krishna. Why is Krishna the best personality to take shelter of? So while you are typing those qualities and reasons why Krishna is most befitting for us to take shelter and be protected, I'll explain in relation to dependence. We find that in life, we are dependent in 2 most critical situations in life. One is when we are baby, when we are born, we are totally dependent. We don't have the proper intelligence. We don't have the proper abilities. Our senses not fully developed. We are totally helpless and dependent on our parents. We cannot even change our own nappy. Totally dependent. All we can do is cry. And when we're old, we are totally dependent. Our senses are weak. Our limbs are weak. We have so many illnesses. Our memory is fading. Our strength is feeble. We need a stick to walk. We need people to protect, and we're dependent on so many factors and people. So in life, as a baby, we're dependent, and as an elderly old man or old lady, we are dependent on people and others. in youth, the peak, in the middle of our life, we have the strength, we may have the beauty, we may have knowledge, we have powerful, vibrant senses, we may have wealth, we may be famous. And because of these things, our false ego will not allow us to depend on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It stops us from surrendering and depending on Krishna. We need, just like the Pandavas who were powerful, who were great, who were famous, who had so much knowledge, they had so much beauty, still they were fully dependent on Krishna. This is the dependence we need to cultivate, the faith that will come as we practice more and more and surrender as we evolve in our spiritual Krishna consciousness. We will recognize that ultimately this is the best solution, to depend on Krishna and to surrender to Krishna. And if we surrender to Krishna and cultivate this wonderful relationship with the Lord, then surely we will always be protected in all circumstances. So the qualities that allow us to take the step of depending on Krishna is, as many of you said, is Bhakta-Vatsal. He's unrivaled. He's fully competent. He's the only one who knows what is best for us. He's Yogeshwar. He's Hari. He's complete. There's no shortcomings. He's the greatest of mystics. He has all mystic powers. And therefore, by surrendering to Krishna, he's absolute. We will always be protected and sheltered. There's absolutely no doubt, but it requires firm faith and conviction. And Kunti was fully convinced of this. And from next week, we're going to start from 18 to 43, the prayers of Queen Kunti. Srila Prabhupada loved these prayers and gave so many classes on these prayers. And from these lectures that Prabhupada was speaking about on the prayers of Queen Kunti, Prabhupada compiled a book, the prayers of Queen Kunti. So we're going to go through these prayers and try to learn and imbibe the mood of Queen Kunti. This brings us to the end of this beautiful chapters, these verses, on the theme of dependence on Krishna. Krantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Are there any questions or comments? You're most welcome to unmute as well. All right, so we covered the one. Salome says, Hare Krishna, Brahma and Shiva are demigods. Why is Narayan's name there as not being perfect? Is Narayan not Krishna himself and is hence perfect? So Prabhupada, Narayan is Krishna. And remember, when Prabhupada is writing that Narayan is not perfect, it's not that he's not perfect, he's all perfect, but there is a beautiful imperfection in Narayan that Narayan doesn't have, that is there in Krishna. So what is that imperfection? That imperfection is that Narayan cannot be your friend. You can't have friendship with Narayan. You can only have master and servant relationship with Narayan. Narayan cannot have conjugal relationship. Narayan can also not have Balila, childhood pastimes. You don't hear one day Narayan was playing in the dust of Vaikuntha, eating mud or stealing, saying lies. You don't find that. But you find that in Goloka Vrindavan. And Krishna can be a friend. You can play pak with Krishna. You can play ball with Krishna. You can have fun with Krishna. See? So you can't even give your remnants to Narayan. The coward boys, they bite a kachori and say, Krishna, this kachori is very nice. Please taste it. And they give it to Krishna. So this is the imperfection that is there in Narayan. See? Yes, he is Krishna. It's Krishna who's at work. And when you're at work, you have a little imperfection, which is there's no intimacy. See? So in that sense, there is imperfection. As the Rasastali says, Srila Prabhupada says in Krishna book, Rake Krishna, Mareke, Mare Krishna, Rakeke. Srila Prabhupada was three Klagyan and had no selfish motive. So we should hear the words of a pure devotee to understand. We need only to depend on Krishna. Yes. Amavati Radhika says, impartial is Krishna, but inclined to devotees, great necessity for everyone's well-being. That's Krishna will protect his devotees because he knows by protecting the devotees, I will bless everyone. Nonetheless, Sri Krishna is all powerful, full in all respects, with all opulences, and is the most worthy of surrender. Yes, and is absolute. And is no equal. There is no one greater, no equal to. How wonderful. If you go, in the material world, there's always one situation that's better than another. When you get to Krishna, there's perfection. You don't need to look, that's the challenge. In the material world, you find something else, you have to keep looking for something else, and there is something else, and therefore you're always looking, you're always searching. When you get to the lotus feet of Krishna, your search has ended. There is absolutely no one that can replace Krishna in every facet, in every way, whether it's protection, whether it's loving, whether it's knowledge, it's all there in Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kalpana says, he was with us in the past, he is with us in the present, and he will be with us in the future. Bhaktavatsal. Yes. Veera says, quite clearly, there is no choice in the final analysis, but to take his shelter of the only one supreme that is independent as the supreme, he protects his devotees for the welfare of those who are not surrendered to him, or perhaps not even know him, as the ultimate solution. Yes, there is no other solution, and we need to become convinced of that more and more. And the more we associate with Bhagavatam, the more we collectively associate together with devotees with the same aspiration, the more we will become convinced. So yes, I'm not convinced, but by associating with all the wonderful devotees, then we will become convinced. Uttarana Devidasi says, Krishna is the greatest mystic. Only he can protect, sustain us in any circumstance. Thank you for the amazing class. Hare Krishna. Shamananda Prabhu says, Hare Krishna. These purports are really powerful. Srila Prabhupada is always reminding us of the actual situation we are all in. No flowery words, flattery, false promises, etc. Straight talking, giving us the truth while everyone else is cheating us. This is real compassion and welfare for her. Yes. Mother Archana Siddhi says, in relation to Shamananda Prabhu's point, no doubt this is Srila Prabhupada giving us the truth. One devotee was sharing how when Srila Prabhupada was dictating, then he would listen. He was outside the door, and he would put his ear to the door and listen to Srila Prabhupada dictating, because he knew Prabhupada was sacrificing his time at the special hours where people are sleeping. And as he was hearing, sometimes he would hear Prabhupada would dictate. It was actually Hari Krishna Maharaj. Prabhupada would dictate, and he would say, it would be like a long pause. And then he would say a word. And Hare Krishna Maharaj was thinking, wow, Prabhupada was thinking about that word for so long. And he realized that Prabhupada wasn't just dictating just for the sake of dictating. He was spending so much time. Every single word was conscientiously put for our benefit. So no doubt, Prabhupada did not want to beat around the bush, because there is no time to beat around the bush. Madhachana Siddhi says, Hare Krishna, but thank you for the beautiful class. How can we be 100% surrendered to Krishna? By associating with those that may be even 1% surrendered to Krishna, so that we can get that 1%. And then we associate with that person who has 5% surrendered to Krishna, so we can get that 5%. And then we associate with those devotees who are 50% surrendered to Krishna, so we can get that 50%. And in this way, by associating, constantly associating with like-minded devotees who have the same intention to get 10%, by us associating with each other, we rub off our percentage to each other, and in that way we become 100% surrendered to Krishna. Therefore, associating with like-minded devotees is very, very important. The beauty is, Srila Prabhupada is 100% surrendered, dependent on Krishna, surrendered to Krishna. Queen Kunti is 100% surrendered. The Pandavas are 10% surrendered. Maharaj Parikshit is 10% surrendered. Therefore, by going through and associating with them in the form of the Bhagavatam, in form of his pastimes, we are getting that 100% rubbing off to us. So in this way, by constantly surrendering in this way and associating, we will eventually get there. Now here's the beauty part. Let's say you only have 10% surrender this life, and next life another 5%, next life another 5%. It takes you a couple of lifetimes, no problem. Because association with devotees and Krishna consciousness, hearing Krishna Katha, chanting Hare Krishna, devotional, it's so wonderful. So the process is wonderful, and we surrendering is wonderful, and when we fully surrender, it's wonderful. Therefore, we simply engage in this wonderful process. We continue never giving, never losing faith, and never leaving this process. Namavati Radhika says, an absolutely wonderful class, so inspiring and nice to hear about Krishna in this way, with his loving exchanges with his unalloyed devotees. We pray from our hearts that one day we all become 100% devotees. Such a beautiful place to be. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for this incomparable nectar. We are so grateful, Haribol. Yes, we pray that we all can be in that situation one day. Ras Bihari Prabhu says, why were we made so weak that we always have to depend on Krishna? Any father would like children who are independent adults. Interesting perspective. He made us weak, placed us in this material world to then ask us 100% surrender. It is hard to understand how to reconcile this reality. So, when you are covered by illusion, which the material world makes us ignorant, illusioned, and the modern ignorant people propagate modern knowledge, which we then associate, then we become so covered that we think that we need to become independent, firstly, and we also think that we are weak. So this perspective to think that I am weak is what modern education is directing us to think. Prabhupada writes in his purports that the soul is not weak. The soul is powerful. And I forgot the number. Actually, I heard it, and then I think Prabhupada said, maybe I stand to be corrected, but like 40 million suns. That's the power of the soul. It has power. We are part and parcel of Krishna, therefore we are powerful. But because we have, out of our own choice, decide to leave Krishna or be in the material world and be covered by the illusory potency, we feel we are weak. We are weaklings, but we are not. Just like a father who's like a Kshatriya warrior, he has Kshatriya sons who are also powerful. Maharaj Parikshit was a warrior because his parents were warriors. So we are not weaklings. But unfortunately, the education system and the conditioning allows us to have this type of mindset. Now, how do you get out of that mindset? There is no remedy. You can't think, oh, I'm powerful, I'll be able to get out of myself. I'll be able to get out of this Maya myself. No. If you in sinking sand, if you're in quicksand, you cannot rescue yourself. If you're drowning in the ocean, you cannot rescue yourself. You need others to rescue. And who is that other? That other is Krishna and his pure devotees. Therefore, Prabhupada, as a spiritual master, is guiding us to our natural power and wonderful situation of being in relation to Krishna. So that is why we are being directed to only surrender to Krishna, because firstly, we are eternal servants of Krishna. We've been eternal servants of Krishna. We are eternal servants of Krishna. We eternally will be eternal servants of Krishna. But we either eternal servants in the spiritual world or we eternal servants in the material world. Eternal servants in the spiritual world are loving Krishna and serving Krishna and happy. In the material world, unfortunately, we are covered and in ignorance and illusion. Therefore, it seems that we are weaklings, but we're not. Bhavana Prabhu says, why were we, all right, so, okay, so Bhavana says, why were we so weak, made so weak? Same point, that we have to depend on Krishna. Okay, interesting. Okay, so that's the same, right. Then Bhavana says, the 5 principles are very fascinating, so also crucial and significant to really observe. Who would not love this Krishna consciousness? Yes. Who would deliver themselves from stringent laws if they're not taking shelter of Shri Krishna and the shelter of Srila Prabhupada? Yes. Mother Lash, Hare Krishna, but thank you for always, as always, for the glorious Krishna Katha. The Krishna that appeared to protect Maharaj Parikshit in the womb manifested from the heart of Mother Uttara because she asked for his protection. It is true that as the fetus, the jiva also has Krishna in our heart, and that we also have conversations with him, Shri Krishna, whilst we are in the womb. Is it true that the fetus, the jiva, also has Krishna in our heart, and that we also have conversation with him while we are in the womb? Yes. So in the Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, there's a verse where Prabhupada writes the purport that the Paramatma is also in the region of the heart of the spirit soul. So he's also in the soul. So he's in the region of the heart, his body, as well as he's in the spirit soul. So the Lord is also in our heart. The Lord is also in the material world everywhere. And it's explained in the Bhagavatam, we'll come to them, that when the living entity takes birth and is pious, he takes birth in the womb of a mother, he knows, he recognizes the Supreme Lord and is praying to the Supreme Lord and is telling the Supreme Lord, he's having a conversation, my Lord, please get me out of here. I promise you I'll worship you. As soon as he comes out and is influenced by the material energy, he forgets. That journey of coming out of this material world is so excruciating, so painful that he forgets. That trauma is very, very painful and he forgets. So I hope that answered that. Viresh Prabhu, Hare Krishna Prabhu, our sweet Lord protected Maharaj Parikshit in the womb and not later in life, from a snake bird. What's the best way to understand this part of his supreme plan? Yes. So your statement is a little incorrect. Yes, he protected Maharaj Parikshit now, and he also protected Maharaj Parikshit through the snake, when the snake bird came. The protection here in the form of protecting the embryo, he gave him an embryo, he protected him from the heat, gave him a body. When Maharaj Parikshit was being burned by the snake bird, he was already protected by the Bhagavatam. He gave him the protection of the Bhagavatam. That's the plan of the Lord. The Lord wanted to give this creation, this population, the Bhagavatam, so that we can be also shielded by the Bhagavatam and then be protected, that even when the snake bird comes and burns us, the body will be burnt, but we would be saved, shielded, protected by the Bhagavatam, our relationship with Krishna, and return back to the spiritual. So that was the plan. That was the lesson. Can you please clarify with an example of how to depend fully on Krishna without asking him? Or can we ask? So yes, we can ask, no doubt. We should ask, because Prabhupada said we should speak to Krishna, we can speak, so no doubt. What happens is, as you develop greater and greater faith, then just like when a child is protected by its parents, it has so much faith that it can be bold, because it knows my father's there. I don't even need to ask, my father's there. So like that, the more in the beginning, we should ask, no doubt we can ask, my Lord, please protect me. And in the beginning, we're just asking with our mind. We keep practicing, at least we're asking, it will come deeper and deeper, and we'll ask from the heart. As that love develops, we'll ask from the heart. When that love fully blossoms, then we don't even need to ask, because we know the Lord will always be there, sheltering, protecting. It's because of that loving relationship. So it's difficult to understand because we don't have that love. When that love fully blossoms, then there's no need to understand, because we will have the protection. So yes, first ask, first pray, and then slowly as the love develops, you will find automatically it will manifest. Hare Krishna Prabhu, you just like a lawyer of the Lord. Thank you, Hare Krishna. I'm simply trying to share whatever Srila Prabhupada, he's the greatest lawyer that have sussed out our material world, our situation, and give us the law books for the next 10,000 years. So let us associate with Prabhupada's law books for the next 1,000 years. Let us take this instructions of law, the ultimate law, from the ultimate lawmaker, and disseminate it fine wide to the people. We will become blessed, and Srila Prabhupada will be pleased that we be able to bless the rest of those that come in contact. Thank you very much for your association. Thank you very much for your feedback and your kind words. Hira says no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you, Hare Krishna. What they say, the jury is adjourned. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Nitai Go Pramanande, Hari Hari.